Hello my friends and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be tackling part 3 of the Chaos to Calm challenge. This is going to be a plan with me, goal setting, really kind of getting my mind right and clear for 2024. And you know what? Speaking of that, we're just going to take a little seat over here for a second. I feel like I've already created so much clarity on what I want out of 2024 just by having conversations with people in my life. Like, you know, the various conversations that you tend to have over the holidays when you meet up with friends or you meet up with loved ones or you meet up with family members. I feel like from that, it's helped me create so much clarity on kind of what my intention is and what I want going into 2024. I turned 35 this year. I know. Getting up there, getting old. I turned 35 this year, and I said something to my friend that I feel like has really colored my intention going into this, that I really want to go into 35 just kind of thriving and firing on all cylinders in every aspect of my life, you know, health, relationships, you know, just the clarity I have in my career, how I'm spending my time, just like firing on all cylinders in every aspect. Not necessarily perfection, because I can definitely lean a little bit too much into, oh, it needs to be perfect, like that kind of mentality, but definitely just kind of feeling like I'm thriving. My goal this year, my word for the year I've already kind of known is trust. I just want to trust myself, trust the process, trust the path that I'm on and the journey that I'm on. And I think in doing that, I think cultivating that mentality of trust is going to be really important for me to start creating this kind of thriving time in my life. So that's really what is coloring my goal setting this year. And so with that, let's go ahead and I'm going to bring you all with me. Let's go ahead and go over to the desk and let's get this baby started. Okay, first things first is probably going to look a little chaotic because I ended up spending like 2 hours doing this, and I know you guys don't want to watch that entire video. But the first thing I went ahead and did is I started to reflect on Q4 in my life. I copied in all of my goals from the previous quarter so that I could use those to check in and really kind of think about how those goals went overall. Then I pulled up all of my previous month's reviews from October, November, and December and kind of used them to compile what were the things that worked this quarter, what were the things that didn't work, what were the memories, what were the successes, what are some of the things that I was grateful for, what are some of the things that I learned. This is something I do every quarter, and I find it really, really helpful to not only look back and see what the patterns were, but to remind myself of some of the good things that happened and not just the bad. I even challenged myself to consolidate some of my biggest successes and memories down into my top 3. That actually was kind of challenging, but I feel like having that moment to reflect was really, really powerful. Not only for kind of where I'm at in my life, but also for where I'm at in my business. Also, don't mind me like literally bobbing around in the top right, because remember, I'm on my walking treadmill. This review is a great starting point because it gave me tons of clarity on what the things are that I want to focus on improving into the next quarter. I stopped, got myself a little water refill and a snack, ultimately decided to ditch the walking treadmill, and then it was on to the next part of my review. One of the reasons this process probably took so long is I did a little bit of playing around with and reorganizing of my systems. I've been trying to play around with what are the best ways for me to organize my OKR goals and bring them together with my reflections and reviews. I'm still kind of trying to find the best way to do this, so who knows if the way that I ended up reorganizing it is actually going to stick. So let's just go ahead and move on to the next part of the process, which is something I'm doing new and different this year, and that is answering some year in review journal prompts. I've been trying to focus more on doing a ton of reflection going into the new year so that I can really, really make sure that I'm very aligned and that I'm thinking about everything I need to be thinking about as I goal set and as I come up with a game plan for this next year. Once I went through and answered all of the questions, then it became time for me to go ahead and open up all of my quarterly reviews for the entire year and use them to find the patterns of, once again, what worked, what didn't work, what have I accomplished, what are the things I'm still working on, what are the gaps, what are the lessons, and what are my favorite memories from the year. This is the biggest reason why I do so many reviews. I check in with myself, as you've probably seen, every week, every month, every quarter, and then at the end of every year. And the reason I do it is so that I have all of this data, all of this information to pull from to really help me figure out the best places and the most important places to make changes, the most important things to continue working on so that I can keep making incremental improvements over and over again in my life. Next, I moved on to one of my absolute favorite parts of this process. I pulled up a life wheel and did a little reflection on where I feel like I'm at in these different parts of my life and where I want to be. I haven't quite done it this way in a while. What I did is I went ahead and I shaded in the score for where I feel like I'm currently at, and then I put in a dot for where I want to be. This gives me a target to aim for and also indicates the places where I'm furthest away from where I want to be. This was really helpful for me figuring out which goals I wanted to set and which parts of my life I really wanted to focus on for the year ahead. I then copied the completed life wheel into my Notion system. And at this point, what I really like to do is I like to go through and I like to give a little bit of an explanation about why I gave myself these scores and what it would take for me to feel closer to a 10, what it would take for me to really be at the score that I want to be at for this part of my life. This is a really helpful reflection for me because it helps me pinpoint the places where I really want to set goals, the places where I really want to focus, to make sure that the OKR goals that I'm setting for the upcoming year are very, very much aligned with this reflection and where I see myself at. Last but not least, before I really got into the goal setting part of this process, I went and did one final reflection. I wanted to, as it says on the page, journal the shit out of my vision. You can kind of see this is really where I started reflecting on what I mentioned at the beginning of the video, which is all about this conversation I had with my friend about how I want to go into my 35th year thriving, my 35th birthday absolutely thriving. I really went through and described, what do I mean when I say thriving? What does thriving represent? What do I want to be thriving in? In what respects do I want to feel that alignment? And do I want to really focus on leveling up my life? For me, this is kind of the last final piece of clarity that I need before I really dive in and start setting goals. Once that was finished, I went ahead and filled in my year at a glance. This is a view that I've kind of taken from my former life as a bullet journaler, where I fill in all of the stuff that I know is happening in the coming year, but I can make sure I'm kind of taking that into consideration, and also really mapping out what I would ideally like my week to look like. I have more and more freedom this year than I've ever had in my life and in my schedule, and I really want to make sure I take advantage of that when it comes to building a schedule that I feel like aligns with my goals, matches with what I want in life, and also just kind of sets me up to have the best balance and to feel like I'm, thriving. And now we are finally to the part where I am setting goals. I pulled up all of my objectives, which I've organized by area, my projects, again, organized by area, and the key results. One of the first things that I went ahead and did is I really questioned and considered which of these projects, objectives, and key results do I actually care about working on anymore, and which do I not? So I immediately went through and started purging things, including habits that no longer felt aligned, objectives and projects that no longer felt aligned, so on and so forth. And then once I did that, I was able to go in and figure out, okay, which objectives align with the things that I really want to focus on creating this year, which projects feel most aligned, and then last but not least, which key results might I need to add in that reflect my priorities and the things that I want this year. This is where I feel like all of this stuff comes together, because you can kind of see I'm ping-ponging back and forth between the reflections that I did before, the things that I wrote down up above, to really just make sure that fundamentally across the board, I am in alignment. I even started adding in a couple of to-dos that felt relevant to help make some of these things happen. And with that, thank you for coming along with me on this year in review, planning, goal setting, shenanigans that just went down. I hope you got some ideas for yourself, some different things that you can try. If you would like any more specifics on any of the aspects of my year in review, please let me know. I know some of it can get a little redundant because I really do ask some of the same questions week to week, month to month, quarter to quarter. But that's kind of the beauty of it, is that it's really simple in that respect. But let me know if you've got any more specific questions you'd love to hear a little bit more about some of the journal prompts that I go. If you'd love to hear a little bit more about the journal prompts that I use, anything like that, drop a comment below. I'm always happy to help, but I hope this gave you a little bit of inspiration as you dive into your year-end review and goal setting. And with that, my friends, I will see you in 2024. Bye.